Welcome to the Underknown. I'm your host, Jan Perillo, and on today's episode, I sit down with Phoenix-based singer-songwriter Victoria Bigelow. Victoria shares how songwriting has been her lifeline since the age of 12, and how music has remained her anchor through the upheavals of life. From navigating a turbulent adolescence to finding her creative voice again after years of self-doubt. We talk about growing up in the internet age, balancing ambition with authenticity, and how living quietly outside Phoenix has shaped her recent work. This conversation is more than about just music. It's about survival, self-discovery, and finding beauty in the process of becoming. Stick around till the end, where I'll leave you with one of her most beloved songs, Low. This is a song that's resonated with thousands and captured the quiet ache that lives inside all of us. But we're going to open up now with her song, Oblivion. This is a track that hits with a rare emotional weight, and we're going to dive into the experiences behind it. Her early struggles with addiction, transformative impact of motherhood, and the lifelong journey of healing from childhood wounds. When I listen to Victoria's lyrics, I feel as though someone is reading me her private journal. I hope you enjoy our conversation.
Oblivion lives in a young girl's heart. I was dancing around the room in the dark till you wrecked my soul. You split me right in two, and now I'm dancing, my head in my hands, 'cause I met you. Oh, that's just how it goes when you're on the road and you're searching for someone to make you think you're not alone. That's just how it feels, in pursuit of what's real, in pursuit of what's true. Oh baby, my knuckles are bloodied for you.
Hi, Victoria. It's very nice to meet you today. Thanks for joining.
Hello, it's so nice to meet you. Thank you for having me.
So on the intro, we were listening to the song Oblivion, and before we started, I kind of mentioned to you that I was, I've listened to it many times, but this morning, for some reason, on my walk, I was listening to it, and it just brought me a lot of emotion, and I'm not an emotional person that listens to lyrics, and I mean, I do listen to lyrics, but they don't usually get me, and this song really got me, and it's partially because I don't think I can relate to it, personally. It's definitely from a woman's perspective, but my daughter, I was thinking about my daughter and just some of the themes that you touch in there. And so can you just kind of tell me about where you were in your life or mentally when you wrote a song like Oblivion? Because it's really raw.
Thank you so much. That's really, Oblivion, I wrote a few years ago, and I was approaching the end of I'm 30 years old. So I think I was like 27 or 28 when I wrote it. And so I was feeling very reflective. And, my 20s were a bit of a whirlwind, before I had my son. I really struggled with some addiction issues, and primarily alcohol. And he is my greatest blessing, but I had him when I was 22. So I wasn't prepared in any way, mentally, financially, but having him really forced me to, I think, just respect and love myself more, because suddenly it became like, well, now you have to, because you have little eyes and ears looking up to you. And you have to shepherd this person through their life now. So,
Yeah.
So that was really, I think, where it was coming from. And, my 20s were wrought with a lot of transformation and a lot of grief. And I think Oblivion is just a culmination of all of that.
But it also sounds like it's about, there's some things, from even earlier than your 20s in Oblivion to me. I mean, it sounds like it's kind of, and maybe it's just a culmination of all your life's experiences in a way. But, and we'll get into some of this hopefully in a few minutes here. But, also when you were young, and there's just this vulnerability with it, like, especially in your vocal recording. And it's just like, it's just so raw. I mean, just the words, like, in one of the lines in particular, it says, I feel like I'm fucking crazy. Damn, I'm just a baby. And it's like, so to me, it's like, these are experiences that, yeah, it could be when you're in your earlier 20s, and maybe 22, having a child is very young. But maybe, there were things that happened even earlier that you're just like, too much, too fast for yourself.
Definitely. I think that I do that quite often in songs. Like I have a main theme, but it's kind of an amalgamation of my life and different romantic relationships and different types and shades of loss and grief and pain. And so it's all like, it's very layered, but yeah, of course,
Yeah.
it always kind of, it's all one thing, So,
Yeah.
yeah, there's a lot of circling some, maybe some childhood pain or things of that sort.
It's all one thing, but in a way, and I don't know you at all, but it kind of seems like there's different phases, at least, in my life, where I think of things, kind of differently. And it seems like this, in some of your songs, I notice these themes kind of coming out, and it doesn't seem to matter, younger or older. It seems like you've kind of been, really dealing with some stuff, like in your life through, like you mentioned, in your 20s, like with alcoholism before, and having a child young and having these new responsibilities. But it seems that there's been like a bit of a struggle for you, in your life. And that kind of comes through a lot in a lot of your songs.
Definitely. I mean, I think, I think most of us are no stranger to whether it be generational trauma or childhood trauma. And then I think you reach a point where you aren't in that environment anymore and things aren't being thrust on you anymore, but they're now in you and they're baked into the way that
Yeah.
you move through the world. And so I think this chapter of my life and a lot of my songs kind of end up revolving around that, and just facing that reality, like, you don't do it for yourself, it's never going to happen. So um, I think there's, and I think it's an ongoing thing. I think we're going to be learning until we take our last breath, at least I hope. But learning to really love and accept yourself and figure out what it even means to be yourself, because that can be really nuanced.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm way older than you. I'm 55. And for me, it's like, it's just been, there was a time in my life when I was doing a lot more of what you were doing and touring, and it was just a very different area and a very different thing, and a very different, like, psychologically, I was so different and so
Yeah.
insecure and so kind of feeling, like, I don't know. It was just like there was this insecurity that kind of like went through everything that I did. And I still have a lot of that today. And I had it when I was younger, and it's something that I'm still wrestling with. But like you said, you're still learning how to be yourself,
Yeah.
even when you're older. So yeah, I think that you're right. It's not going to stop.
Yeah, unfortunately, but it's also beautiful because it's great unfolding, and for that I am really grateful. But yeah, I mean, I really envy people, I mean, I think people always joke around like being born rich is like, especially in the United States and such a capitalist society, but being born and having healthy grown-ups around you and healthy programming and really loving and respecting yourself, I think is far more valuable than how wealthy you are, So I think,
Yeah.
and it's no shame or shade to my grown-ups, because they were all doing their best, as I now know, because it's just part of it. But yeah, it's like a great undoing, and then it's a relearning and a becoming. So far is what I've.
Let's talk a little bit about some of those earlier experiences, because I do, I've read about you quite as much as I can on the internet. And there are some early things that, that I learned about you. For example, you began writing your music at age 12, and that's when you first got your guitar. and you essentially immediately wrote a song.
Mm.
Now, I imagine it wasn't your best song, but the fact that you even did that at that age, and were probably plucking on one string. I mean, I don't know what you were doing on the guitar, but that's kind of amazing. So what was kind of like, what drove you to buy a guitar, and what drove you to like then just write a song? Like, what were you dealing with at 12 years old that kind of like made you do something so kind of, I guess it is profound in your life, right? I mean, it's something that's affected the rest of your life.
I mean, yeah, it's completely shaped my whole existence. Well, so I always loved to sing and perform, and for a long time, for me, I thought that meant performing arts school, Broadway, or something along those lines.
Mm.
And then I got a vocal teacher, and I expressed to her kind of like what I wanted to be in my life. And she was like, well, being a singer is fine, but if you really want to do something, be a songwriter. And it was right around the time that Taylor Swift had come out. I think she'd come out like maybe a year prior. And so she was really inspiring for me at that time, because I was in 7th grade. And so seeing a girl who was, I don't know how much older she is than me, but like 4 or 5 years older than me, doing something that I wanted to do. It was the first time that I had seen that. Like, of course, I was really acquainted with like the Spice Girls and Britney Spears, but
right.
And I loved like Michelle Branch when I was really young, and Alanis Morissette, but I wasn't the same age as those.
Yeah, right.
And I was the same age as Taylor, kind of, and so I really looked up to her. And that was when I got a guitar, and I still wish I was way better at the instrument. I feel like I should be, because I've been playing for so long. I really just use it seriously as a tool for writing. Anytime I've tried to like really take the instrument seriously, it just doesn't like make me excited or like shimmer. And I think that's okay, because I use it for what I love. And to me, the whole thing is writing. And once I wrote my first song, I was like, this just changed everything. This just changed my whole life. So, yeah.
So you felt it right away, like once you wrote your first song. So you'd been taking vocal lessons, you got a guitar because your guitar teacher or your vocal teacher said, you should be a writer. That resonated. You bought a guitar and immediately started writing. And then that song that you wrote, I mean, do you still know what that song is? Do you?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So, I'm just singing it now. This isn't a performance, but yeah. So is it, if you still know what it is, it's probably something that's kind of special to you. I mean, you might not want to release it to the world, but it's special to you in a way, right? I mean,
yeah, I mean, I feel like even at that age, I was kind of caught between two different identities, and I'm a Gemini, so that like, I just feel like I'm constantly like two different people all the time. And I mean that in like such a genuine way, but I was writing. So the first song that I ever wrote, oh my God, this is embarrassing. It was called Regrets and Lies. And it was like pretty much about world peace. And then I wrote a song called Faded, which was about like the words on a page being faded because I was getting bullied at school. And but on the other end, I was writing these like country pop songs because I wanted to be like Taylor Swift, right?
Right.
But I think I've always kind of had this affinity for just like pretty dark, somber music.
Yeah.
Even if it isn't really the most mainstream or popular, it's what always makes me feel the most seen. And when I'm done writing a song where I feel like it's been very therapeutic for me, I know when I've really said something for me, not as far as like and it's the only time still, because I get so messed up with comparisons and, oh, I have a kid and that's why I don't have more opportunity because people know that they can't exploit me as much. And like, I have a very grounded life, and I'm so lucky to, like, my husband is my producer. And so we've built this like musical world in our home. So
Yeah.
I can just be in my little corner of the world and do what I want to do. And I feel really, really grateful for that. But it's the only time that all of that noise just dies down. And I
Yeah.
suddenly, like, I don't care. I don't care if I am never famous. I don't care if I never go on big tours. I don't care, like, about anything. I just am that 12-year-old girl in my room
Interesting.
all over again. And I just feel totally reconnected.
So what comes first for you? Your, you mentioned you want to be better at guitar and maybe so you can create more rhythms, but your lyrics are so, they're obviously very crucial to your songs and the mood. And so how do you typically write a song? Is it first your lyrics and then your music, or is it music and then your lyrics? Because anytime I've ever written, it's always song and then mush mouth lyrics, and then I figure out what the hell I'm going to say afterwards. So is that different for you? Do you do something completely different?
You know, this is a good question. So my friend Tracy is super into poetry, and she's always sending me poems, and I feel like a noob because unless it's like Mary Oliver or more modern poetry, a lot of it can go like very much over my head, and I'm like, what is
Yeah.
wrong with me? Like, I know I'm not an idiot, but like, why is this not resonating like I feel like it should be? So I'm going. A goal of mine this year is to challenge myself to start with words first, because I never do that. I normally am
Wow.
messing around, and I'll feel something that resonates about the chords and or whatever it is that's happening in the music, and then from there it's kind of like what you were saying. It's like phonetic words and like melody kind of all jumbled out, and lots of times that's where my subconscious kind of does her thing and like
Right.
is saying what she needs to say. And then pretty quickly I just kind of fall into what I'm picking up as the beginning song, and then the rest kind of reveals itself, and I'm like, oh, okay, I can kind of craft like some type of narrative here, or this is what I think this is about. I want to challenge myself to really treat it like a craft, because it is something that I feel like happens to me a lot. Like I just feel like the vessel, like it just kind of
Yeah.
like. But I really, I love songwriting and I love lyricism, and so I want to start approaching it in a way that feels a little more intentional. But as of now, that's been the process.
That's surprising to me. Because your lyrics, most good songs have some emotion baked into their lyrics, whether it's and usually they're the darker lyrics. That's kind of the music I've gravitated towards too all my life. And they make you kind of feel something, but they're not terribly hidden. You mentioned some of the poetry, and I tried to get into poetry too, and like, some, Irish, poets, and, and like you, it's like, I know I'm not dumb,
Mm-hmm.
but man, I don't understand this. And then you read what it's supposed to be about, and you're like, okay, I guess I see that. It's like in school when they would make you read books, and you're like, what's the hidden symbolism here? And you're
Mm-hmm.
trying to figure out what the intent of the author was. But I feel like songwriting, at least for me, the best songs are the ones that, it's not an explanation of every step. It's vague enough that you have an idea of what the emotion is, but you can also apply it to something yourself that isn't exactly the same as what happened to you. You're not so specific about it. And that's kind of what, at least with that, first song that we just talked about, Oblivion, like really hit me, because it's not even, the emotion for me isn't about me at all, right? It's about my daughter. And so which is very strong, but for you, it's obviously not about your daughter. You have a son, and it's about you. So the meaning is very different, but the lyrics seem very intentional to me. So,
Yeah, that one actually is one of the only times where it kind of started very differently. I was in my kitchen, and
hmm,
that first, like the very first verse and the melody and that first lyric, Oblivion heart, just kind of like came to me. It was like midnight, and I was out in the kitchen, and I was like, whoa, I need to go write that down or like record it to my phone. But yeah, thank you for saying that, because I I wish I could take more credit as like, yeah, I meant to do all of that, or, meant to be super crafty with it. But I just feel like I just have to be in a state ready to like receive is kind of how it feels.
Yeah, I don't think it matters if you intended it or not in a way. I mean, I think just the fact that you wrote it, you were the vessel, like you said, that it came through is what's really important. And your voice, the way that it conveys the emotion through it. And, I mean, it means to you what it means to you. And if other people identify it, and I think I've read, and you even sort of said it like, I don't care if I'm famous. I don't care about this. I don't care. But you're writing these things, and even the titles of your album, Song for No One, it's like, you're really writing it for yourself. And if other people can relate to it, if other people can appreciate it, well, that's great. But you're not writing for, Jan Perillo in Oregon, so he appreciates something about his daughter, right? It's not, you're writing for, it's for you. And if other people relate to it, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So let's go back to, you were a child. You mentioned you got bullied, and what was your what was your schooling like, I guess, before 12? And at 15, I know you moved to Nashville, but what was your schooling like at that age? Was it just like so hectic because you were so worried about, like, people throwing spitballs in your hair? I mean, what was happening that was so,
So my mom was married to my first stepdad from like the age of, I think I was like 5 to 11. And when they got a divorce, it was a crazy divorce. And it also was kind of a jolt because my stepdad at that time had like a really great job. So we were living what I know now was like a very nice life. And then it was like we were all crammed in this little 1-bedroom apartment in Dunwoody. And a lot in my life changed super quickly. It was like everything just like upside down. And I went, from being like, this like prissy little elementary school girl to, buying all my clothes at Goodwill, which I still do. So no shame in that. But,
yeah, my kids do too.
like literally everything I have on is from Goodwill. But so I think it was, as a kid, you don't know anything outside of your own experience. And so there were a lot of other things that played too that I'm not going to speak on just because I wasn't the only one involved. But a lot happened and a lot went down, and it was crazy. And so I went to school in Dunwoody, which is right outside of Atlanta, for a year. And then I went back to my old district, and there was stuff going on with my mom's relationships because she was kind of in and out of relationships. And so it was just like kind of a topsy-turvy years. And so by the time, and like, especially as a girl, it is for everyone, not to be sexist, but like for a girl, it's like you're changing. Everything is like hyper-focused. Girls can be so catty. It's just like a really sensitive, delicate time. And I entered 6th grade just like my world had been rocked, and really just like didn't know where I belonged, really shaky sense of self. And that was the year that I started writing music. That was the year I started writing music, and I totally think it saved my life. And then I think it's also like, it's kind of like sharks can smell blood in the water. That's how I think girls are at that age. So I think I was just easy target. And it was kind of one of those things where like, I was always friends with this group of girls who were like the popular girls, but I was like in the group, but also not. I was the one that was always picked on, which is worse than like not being in it at all. So it was just not good. And it was the real onset of social media. So a lot of cyberbullying, and it was awful. And I felt really lucky to have music because I would skip school and write songs. I'd be like, I'm not going there with all those losers. I'm staying here and I'm writing, So I felt really grateful for that outlet at that time. And I'm still, now at 30 years old, like I'm still just a girl in her bedroom writing songs.
Yeah.
So it's like a concurrent theme in my life.
Well, it's interesting. One of the other song that I had mentioned to you that I thought was really good that I thought maybe we would do the intro with was Under the Tree. And in that song is that lyric, when I was a kid, I skipped school
Yeah.
to write my songs. If I didn't, I'd have died far too young. And that's kind of like, I figured out how to live with all this pain. I mean, that's the theme there. I mean, that's like that's coming to you. I imagine that was much later that you wrote that song, but these are things that were happening to you when you were very, very young. And we talked about like maybe the songs that you wrote when you were 12 weren't as good as the ones that you write now, but you did move to Nashville at 15. So you had something in those songs that people, maybe your mom, maybe, I don't know who, but what, did you move to Nashville for music, or was that for a different reason?
Well, I think the easy thing to say is that I moved for music, but that just isn't really true. My mom started dating my manager, and he lived in Nashville, and chaos ensued, and we went to Nashville. But because I had kind of circled back around and like really gotten to very confident and secure in myself and like my path in life, and then when that happened, it shook a lot up, like a lot went down. And I kind of stopped making music. We moved to Nashville, and I homeschooled online, and I didn't have any friends there, and I couldn't drive yet, so I was just home alone all day, which is, I think, where I had kind of always really struggled with some mental health stuff, but that was where a lot of it really kind of reared its ugly head. And at that point, I felt very disillusioned with music. And yeah, I was like, I'm done. I don't care to care anymore.
What made you feel disillusioned, though? Sorry to interrupt, but what made you feel disillusioned at that point when you moved to Nashville? Like, what was it that, I mean, it kind of saved your life, like you've said before, and now, just 3 years later, which I know is a big part of a 12-year-old's life. 3 years is huge. But, 3 years later, you're disillusioned. And was it because business came into it? I mean, what was it exactly that got you disillusioned?
No, it was everything going on in my family life and my personal life. It was really heavy, and it was pretty dark, and it was just like, I don't even really, I put all of myself into this thing, and I cared about it so much, and this is where things are now, so I would rather just not care. And I always was writing songs for myself, but as far as pursuing it, I was like, no way. And my mental health took a nosedive, and like eating disorder stuff came into play. And so it was just like, yeah, it wasn't something that I was thinking about or focused on at all.
Right. And then, so you get older. So you're 15, you're disillusioned, but you're still in Nashville. And then at some point later, you transitioned to Phoenix. How old were you then? And kind of what happened in between to get you, did you ever get reintroduced, or not reintroduced, reinterested in music? Or did that come later when you finally moved to Phoenix? I mean, was your life just chaos in Nashville for that entire time?
Well, a lot happened between then and Phoenix. I've been in Phoenix for only 4 years. So.
Oh, wow. Oh, okay.
Yeah, Phoenix is a newer part of my journey.
Oh, wow.
So I was living in Nashville, had my first like big relationship with a guy who lived back in my hometown in Georgia. That went on for like a few years. Drinking got pretty not great. Living in Nashville, I worked at this bar and venue called Third and Lindsley in Nashville that I just adore. Probably like the only really amazing thing that I did in that time. And then I had my son when I was 22. Then I lived in upstate New York for a second.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Where in upstate New York?
Burlington Flats. So
okay,
like
I don't know that.
30 minutes away from Cooperstown. Baseball,
okay. Oh, wow.
Fame, all that.
Wow, that's way out there.
Yeah. And it was, again, I feel like, isolation has just been like a cornerstone of my life. And I'm like, I keep asking the universe why, but it's like clearly there's something I'm meant to get out of it. And so I just need to lean into it. But yeah, I lived in upstate New York and like went from between there and Nashville for like almost 2 years. And while I was living there is when I was like, I need to take seriously again. So it was a little bit after my son was born that I was like, okay, girl, now's the time. Now's the time to do something if you're going to do it. And then when I got back to Nashville, I was living there full time. Like within 6 months, the pandemic happened. And then we had this crazy tornado that hit like just the block next to us and took down all of East Nashville. And it was just like, so much was happening. I was like, yay, like welcome home, you know, great.
Yeah.
And then my husband always sung Arizona's praises, and I was going through a lot of stuff with my family and needed some physical separation. And he was like, we don't need to be in LA. We can be in LA's backyard, and Arizona is magical. So let's go there. And so that's what we did. And it's been great. It's been really healing.
Are you in the middle of nowhere in Arizona? I know you're somewhere outside Phoenix or something. I mean, are you like where? Yeah,
we're right in like northeast Phoenix,
okay.
And we love it. Kind of like right at, I don't know if you've ever been to Arizona, but it's like right
I have, yeah.
at the border of like Phoenix and Scottsdale. We spend most of our time in Scottsdale.
Mm-hmm.
My son goes to a Montessori school in Scottsdale,
Oh, nice.
so it's been great. We've aside from the summers, because the summers are so hot.
Brutal, yeah.
It's been it just is like very neutral energy. You know, there's not this like identity of Phoenix or Arizona that's like thrust on you. And I think that's been something that's been really nice.
I mean, you've been there 4 years. Do you kind of feel at home there? I mean, is that sort of where you...
Yeah, I mean, now that I've lived, and I think like really not to like get into politics or anything, but I spent my entire life in the Southeast, the Bible Belt, raised in churches, and it's really crazy. You don't realize how much that part of an area or a region that you live until you aren't there anymore. Being not there has been like, wow, refreshing. I mean, even like we're still living through crazy times, but it just kind of feels like there's more room for people to be complex. Like, okay, for example, like I don't smoke weed, but I appreciate that it's legal here and there are dispensaries everywhere, and I could walk into one and be buying weed right next to a MAGA guy, you know, whereas like being conservative and Republican where I'm from is like, if you smoke weed, like that's of the devil. Like that's like, you know. And so I think just something as simple as that, knowing that I'm surrounded by that duality in people, has just been really helpful, really good for me, and like my I think worldview and outlook on things.
Does it kind of make you think like there's not, you know, I mean, I know it's a very small example, but maybe, you know, because we have such a divided country now, but maybe it's like, because, you know, at least in an area like Arizona, and the same up here, like maybe there aren't as big of differences between people as it's made to either seem, or when you have this like one, you know, mindset type of place. And I've never really, you know, I've been to Georgia, but I've never grown up there. But, you know, I can imagine that it seems a little bit more of your identity in a place like Georgia. I could be wrong, but it seems more like your identity. Whereas in Arizona, it's just like, it's not, maybe not as important, or maybe there's more ways that you can see that you can identify with some of these people. I mean, is that kind of...
No, I mean, truly. And I know that this is very like, it's not in fashion right now to admit to the fact that like, you know, someone who's voted for Trump, I mean, I'll never understand it. And it's like, I want to be angry at them, but I can't. And there's absolutely no point, and they want us to be mad at each other. And I just think that's a really limiting way to go through this experience with each other, interacting with each other. The internet has, I think, made us all severely out of touch with one another.
Yes.
And so I think that's one of the things that I'm most grateful for where I live, is like, it feels like a very mixed bag. And I appreciate that.
Yeah, you are a purple state, so that's not a figment of your imagination, I don't think.
Be nice if it was blue, but whatever.
What's that?
I said it would be nice if it was blue, but
it was supposed to be. You let us down, So one of the things that I've noticed a lot through your looking at your Instagram and your writings is there seems to be a literary component to you. Now, we talked about some of the poetry and things like that aren't that maybe go over your head and you're embarrassed that you don't understand them, but you do have these, like, again, back to Under the Tree, Sylvia Plath. I mean, that's pretty sophisticated stuff, and you're using some of these literary influences as taking form in some of your songs. I mean, so are you one of those people that's always in books, always reading, always trying to learn? I mean, what's that like?
It ebbs and flows for me. I kind of have seasons where I am a voracious reader, and it's like I just want to consume book after book. And then I go through periods where I just really have no interest and I don't really care to force it. And I'm sure some of that is in part to my attention span just like dwindling due to TikTok and social media. But I definitely go through very severe like reading spells, and then kind of what I'm interested in reading will shift. Like, instead of reading fiction or books that I love, I want to read, more like woo-woo stuff, and then I'll have my head in that for like a couple months, and it just kind of is like a cycle.
Yeah. I've gone through the phases of trying to read stuff that can better me, and it's the harder stuff to read. Obviously, I just want to read something that kind of takes my mind off everything from your days, and then so to try to get something at night before you go to bed that's maybe more informative or educational, or you can learn something, or you can better yourself. It's like I just fall asleep immediately. Yeah. So it's really hard for me to want to do that. You mentioned earlier, well, I forget how you put it, but something about like if I'm not, you talk about being famous, and it was like, if I'm not meant to be famous, that's fine. Maybe I don't have the same opportunities because you have a kid, because you can't tour as much. But I wanted to talk to you a little bit about touring and expectations and like your desire to get out there more. I mean, I've seen something. I know you're very excited when you have shows, especially in Arizona. You're excited to go back to Nashville, and at least according to what I've read, it seems like these are things that you really enjoy getting out there. And I'm wondering if that's something that you're looking to do more as your child grows older, or kind of what your philosophy is around there. Yeah,
definitely. I mean, if an opportunity came up tomorrow where someone was like, hey, you want to open for me, or I would jump at it. I love performing. It scares me. Yeah, I get awful stage fright, but I do really love it. I love getting to live inside of my music for like in a very real way with other people, because then suddenly it all feels real. It's not just something that I'm doing here in my house. So yeah, I mean, I really hope to tour on a big way one day.
Good. No, I think that's great. I mean, because I've seen a couple of your live performances, and the one that we were actually chatting online a little bit before we met here, and you texted me or whatever you call it on Instagram while I was watching you on that Music Bed series, and it was so good. And I know you said your husband's your producer, but he's also the guitar player on that, and he is really, I mean, I don't know what his background. He's really good.
Good.
Yeah. It's what I love about the way he plays is it's like, it's not so many people feel like they have to fill space, and he doesn't seem to have that ego about people knowing that he's good. I mean, you can tell especially if you're a guitar player, you can tell, but he just adds to the song, and it's really it complements you beautifully. It's really a wonderful sound that you have, and that music bed sessions was awesome.
Saying that, yeah, he is incredible. He's been, as long as I've been writing, like we both fell in love with this thing that has now become our life at the exact same age. He's 10 years older than me, so just on slightly different timelines. But he was 12 when he started guitar,
Oh wow!
And he's toured all over the world, and I think the real mark of like a great guitar player is like in their restraint, and like you said, like not filling up everything. And we know each other so well, and he knows obviously he produced all the music inside and out, and he knows what I like and what I'm into, and luckily our tastes are very aligned. So I feel super lucky because after like every show, he has just as many people coming up to him to compliment him as I have coming up to me, because he's like my secret sauce for sure.
Yeah. So, but you also perform alone.
Sometimes.
Yeah. So yeah, and so at the last song in that music bed sessions was you performing alone, and and it was really it was really really good. And so I'm wondering, like, how often do you perform alone? I've seen some clips of you performing alone. I mean, what's your preference, and how do you?
Well, I don't, for a show, for the most part, like if someone's like, hey, we want you to come play a show, it's always going to be Devin and I. During the set, there is typically one or two songs that I'll just perform on my own.
Okay.
Just to have that, I think that just another level of intimacy with the audience, with people there.
Yeah.
For the most part, we do everything together now. I mean, if there's, sometimes it's requested that I'm just alone, or it's just like they just need quick like throw and go setup, and so it'll be just me. For the most part, we just do everything.
You've there's a couple things that I found really interesting when I was listening to your catalog. So the first thing I'm going to go back to is this one song called New Recording 173.
Yeah.
And it seemed to me like it's literally just an iPhone recording, right? And that you just put it on the record, and your son comes in the middle. It's really cute. And so two questions is, that must be the way that you put down all your ideas, right? Just onto an iPhone, into the little voice memos. Did that song ever become a real song?
Yeah.
Not a real song. I don't mean a real song. So which song is that?
It's called No Beginning, No End.
Is that public? I don't.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. So
yeah,
I missed it then. I tried to figure out which one it was, and I couldn't, because it just didn't come to. So No Beginning, No End. Thank you for that. Yeah, because it was I was like, this is really good. And then how did it change between and I guess how do all your songs really change? I mean, I know you have a producer, but I mean, how completed are they before you bring them to Devin, or before you decide to put them down for a record? I mean, how developed are they?
Well, back as early as that project, it would literally just guitar vocal. It would just really just, here's the song,
Mm-hmm.
Now, as I feel like I'm more confident in doing, and I've gotten really good at like recording myself. Like I sit in here all day. It's my job. I'm a freelance vocalist, so like I just sit here all day and sing. So I've really kind of gotten my footing with kind of beginning to produce myself, and so I'm releasing stuff. I'm releasing a song actually on June 6th that I haven't told anybody about yet. But
awesome!
Yeah,
exciting.
Yeah, and so that one was a lot of it was like, obviously Devin like works his magic and did a lot to it, but I found like this like drum sample that I loved, because I really like, I'm a huge Kurt Weill fan. I love the use of like, the drum machine, kind of this stream of consciousness guitar and lyrics. Like I'm like a huge fan of his, so I was like, I want to do something like that. And then I just kind of I laid down some rhythm guitar, and I did all of the vocals. And what we're going to hear when that song comes out, like a lot of that, I think everything from the original session, like all of the vocals, everything that I did on my own first is still in session. So what I handed to Devin, it was the first song that I've ever handed him where like a lot was done, and he did a lot still to it, but it was one of, I think, the first time that I've ever so involved, not like we're in a room together creating, but like I got it as far as I could get it on my own with every idea that I heard, every vocal stack, everything, and then handed the session to him, and then he did all his stuff to it.
So that's so when you say you had everything, or you handed it off to him with, is that like electric guitar? You had the drum loop. Do you play bass on there? I know you play piano and singing, and that's obviously not into your iPhone.
So here in my room, I have just like a little just recording setup, and so I recorded a scratch guitar, how I wanted the guitar to sound. I found the drum machine beat that I wanted to use. I did all of the vocals, and I found just like this guitar sample that I loved that I threw in there, and Devin then like recreated and like made. But trying to think, and then we opted for sub bass on this one. We found that together, and then he went crazy and made it sound like, not a demo, like a real song.
When you're putting out new stuff, I mean, how do you operate as a independent musician? Do you have like an agent, like a manager? I mean, how do you get out there? How do you put your stuff out? What's your process?
I do not have management. I don't have an agent. I've never had those things. I really, the process is whatever distribution I'm with. Like right now I'm with STEM, and before I was with Tone Tree, which is just like an independent based out of Nashville. I make my stuff, and then I turn it in, and I'm like, cool, in 6 weeks it'll be out. And that's it, and I want to get a little more visual with some of this new stuff that I sing. Like Devin and he helps me film everything too. So
yeah, one of your videos was kind of I don't want to say disturbing. It was a little bit like the Panic Room video where
yeah.
pretty good though.
We had fun with that one.
Couple other things that I would like to discuss with you. One is you have a song called the Age of the Internet, and I'd like to hear a little bit about the song, because obviously you grew up somewhat with the internet, mostly with the internet. I mean, like we just talked about, you were in school, but you were still one of the people that grew up without the internet too, like at least for your early part of your life. And the beginning starts off with this unusual experience about finding someone's nudes on the internet, that is your ex-boyfriend's girlfriend, I guess, which is really interesting. But as you talk about, like, how does anyone forget in the age of the internet? And to me, I think about my kids when I think about something like that, like how impactful this thing is for them. And so is that kind of along the lines of what you're thinking about when you're writing a song like that?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that was a super hyper specific experience, but I think also something that a lot of people can relate to. Like, it doesn't have to be your ex-boyfriend's new girlfriend's news, but how easy it is. Like, if you want to hurt yourself, pick this thing up and you can find something that'll hurt you, something that'll piss you off or ruin your day. And I think, how does anyone forget in the age of the internet? It's like, kind of, it's just echoing that sentiment of when you're really trying to detach yourself from something, how exactly do you do that when every time you phone, even if you block them or whatever, it's still so easy for things to seep through the cracks and for things to enter your consciousness that you don't want in there, and impacting you. And I think I was just really coming from that place. And I think it's like the information age, for better or worse. And I think it also, it's like we're all super connected, but for our politics conversation a little bit ago, like super disconnected. Like we keep forgetting that we're humans here, and we're all here. We just like might as well try to be good to each other, because I mean, why not? Like we're literally all stuck here together. But it's wild because now we have AI, and so that's even weirder. But
It's not settling down, is it? I mean, with this AI, you can put there's all kinds of things you can do. I did something the other day where I wanted to see what would happen if I put, a buddy of mine's face and had his, and I had a quote from him that he said something on the phone, and I animated it, and it was like, I mean, yeah, it didn't look perfect, but I was like, Jesus, you can do anything with this,
yeah,
and it's freaky.
it doesn't look perfect yet. It doesn't look perfect.
Exactly. That's exactly right.
No, I mean, and it's crazy. I mean, people that there are, Illustrator AIs that spend like $500 a month for something, and I mean, the stuff that they're making is, you never know that it's not real.
Yeah.
And it's freaky because I think it's also having, on the one end that feels really dark, but on the other end, I think for a lot of people, it's really showcasing how malleable your reality is, right? Like there's so much untruth that people have always been told by whoever it is that needs to make money, right? So right. I think that's something that AI is in one way is benefiting because I think they're like, oh, so like really rich people have probably been able to do whatever they've wanted and manipulate things however they want for quite a while. So,
now everybody can.
Right.
Although I still, I'm not going to discount the ability of the wealthy to use it even better than we all can. But
I think that's the thing. Like, it's like, I think a lot of people were really upset over the water usage, myself included in the beginning. But it's like, I'm really so sick of it being the consumer's responsibility instead of the corporation's responsibility. Like me abstaining from using ChatGPT to save the planet. Right. It isn't. And so it's like, if those bad guys are going to use it, I'm going to use it, so
totally.
That's how I feel.
It's interesting you say something like that too, though, because, bringing it back to a different example, when they talk about like water usage, it's like, well, now you have to limit what you do. You can't have plants and all that kind of stuff, but you have these massive golf courses, right outside. And it's like, how much water do those take? And you have these, and if you didn't have, I know golf courses are a huge thing in Arizona, and people go there just to play. And so you're never going to get rid of your golf courses. But like, it's like now they're putting it on the citizens,
yeah,
and the farmers even,
yeah,
to use less water because of, these.
Yeah. And I know that like where water goes, it probably is not up to snuff anyway. So when it's like me having a lawn isn't going to be the end of the world, guys. Like,
right.
Back it up. Yeah. Again, I just think it's like people getting upset with each other instead of the source of the issue. So
yeah. So going back to the age of the, like, how are you bringing up your son in this age? I mean, because I wrestle with this all the time with my kids, and we, you said you're in a Montessori school, and that's largely media free, I believe, or at least they try to make it so that you're not all your learning's on an iPad like it was when we got to Bend here, in elementary school. First thing they did was give them iPads. I'd never seen an iPad before.
Wow.
And so, I'm just wondering, like, how are you navigating that with your son?
I think that's a great question. And I think it ebbs and flows. Like during the summer, he's on his devices a lot because it's like so brutally hot. But I think we've always been pretty good about like, it's going to be a part of your life. But when usage gets excessive or it starts to affect your mood, problem, right?
Yeah.
And as far as like, I feel really lucky. Again, like I hate to bring gender into it, but like I do have a little boy, and that wanting for social media and for online interaction is going to be far less than it is girls. And I can only say that because I have 3 younger brothers, and I have a younger sister. And I'm the oldest. And so I've just seen the differences. And how many of my guy friends growing up like cared less about social media while I was addicted to it and like it was ruining my life, you know? So I think like I feel really lucky that there's a lot that I feel like I won't have to experience the brunt of because I have a son, but I'm also bracing myself for the reality of like it's life. But you know, where I feel like we try to stay pretty on top of it. Like he loves Minecraft. Oh, he loves Minecraft, and that doesn't bother me. He's building stuff. I could care less. Play as much Minecraft as you want. He wants to watch YouTube videos to get ideas for what to build. That's only an hour because I'm not going to have you on YouTube all day. I'm not going to have you be a YouTube zombie. You know, I've seen that too. Like it's a very slippery slope. It's really easy for everyone to fall into. I do feel very lucky that he's at such a great school. I don't think, I mean, they're watching the movie today because it's like literally a week out from the end of school. But yeah, there's no devices there. They went on like a field trip with a 2-hour bus ride a couple weeks ago, and you weren't allowed to bring electronics. You know, you had to bring like draw with or whatever, which is great because he loves to draw. So, you know,
I had to look out the window and read license plates or do whatever people did when they were kids before the internet.
Exactly. Yeah.
So you mentioned that you have a new song coming out. What other projects do you have? I mean, are you going to release another EP, an album? I mean, what's your plan? And it seems, and I'm going to couple that with another question. I feel like you are very deliberate with what you release. And this is just like by looking at your catalog, because you've been writing music for a long time and you will release, 4 songs at a time and not 12. But the 4 songs are all really good and you don't have 5 filler songs in there. So I'm wondering if it's like, how many songs do you throw out? And you had song number 173. So there's a million ideas. I mean, how many songs are you throwing out of yours and not publishing because you don't feel like they're either ready for prime time and then, what's coming?
Oh gosh, a lot. Well, and I think I'm so bad about like, I'll really follow an idea and I'll follow it and I'll follow it. And I'll get to like the halfway point. I'll even finish it and be like, I don't like this at all. Never mind. I thought I liked it, but I don't like it. I was lying to myself. That's really nice of you to say that you think I'm intentional because I don't feel like I'm intentional at all. Mm-hmm. It's really nice to hear. Yeah, as far as, I thought this would be the beginning prize another EP song that will be coming out in a month. But I'm also kind of bored of that, of releasing, like only like batches of songs at a time. And so I'm even playing around with the idea of maybe I'm just going to release a few standalone singles that have really worlds that accompany the kind of stuff inside of, and work towards an album. Or maybe I'm just going to release songs willy-nilly. And I don't really know, to be totally honest with you. I really don't know. I don't know yet.
It's really interesting because I was talking to another artist and we were talking about their albums, and the albums for them were like it was really a microcosm of what they were going through at the time, and it was very, very obvious. I mean, if you listen to his catalog, you could hear like really, really sad, happy, all and you could really hear it, and they were all strong, but they were very much around what is happening, and so there was really a theme for it, and that's kind of what an album doesn't always mean, but typically can mean like there's a theme, there's a bunch of songs that go together. And if you kind of feel they don't go together, especially today, it seems like, why wouldn't you release a song here, a song there, or two songs, and not have to have, it's not like they're going into record stores usually, right? So I mean, the importance of albums, I mean, you can press vinyl and all that kind of stuff, and that's really cool, but the importance of an album seems to have gone way, way down, and very few people listen to albums. If you just look at on Spotify, the listens that you have for your songs is like, on volume 1, like Low has, ton of listens, and some of the other ones only have, tens of thousands of listens. And it's like, they're obviously not listening, everybody that listens to Low is listening to the whole album, and that can come from playlists and things like that. So, I don't know if that's the wrong approach. I mean, I don't know, but it doesn't seem like there's anything wrong with releasing things that you feel good about when you feel good about them.
Yeah. I mean, I think the album thing really just comes from like okay, girl, you've released like 4 EPs. Do you think it's time that you put out an album? So I think just the challenge of a full body of work, not 5 songs, but 10 songs or 12 songs.
Right.
I mean, it changes the scope of things, and it forces you to have further foresight. It forces you to more like exact and intentional. This is what I'm doing, and this is how I'm doing it. But like I said, I really just don't know. I really don't know. This new song is kind of what to me feels like a departure, a little bit sonically, and so I think I'm just excited about singing it and seeing how people respond, and if it resonates with them like it does with me. And I'm not really putting any pressure or limitations on myself right now. I'm just kind of rolling with what.
Great. Maybe last question for you here. So you talked about the new song and the departure. Actually, maybe I have 2 questions, but the song and the departure that you just mentioned, you're typically, you can really hear like there's a real connection with your voice. I think, and part of the reason is because I think it's, and I'm assuming that it's relatively quiet when you don't have like this scream voice or anything like that, and so you can actually hear. There's a band called the Antlers that when you hear them sing, like you can hear like their tongue hitting their, and you can hear that with you, but it's very intimate. It's like you're in the room with them. There's something about it. And so when you say it's a departure, is it like all of a sudden you have distorted guitars and you're screaming? I mean, what's kind of the departure that for you, if you don't mind?
I feel like it's a departure, but people listening might be like, this is the same. I think really just like some sonic decisions, like the vocal treatment is it. I've never, Devin really came up with, and I have never experimented with the vocal treatment. It's like very double, very verby. There's the drum machine. Aside from, I think maybe like I have a song called "The Kids," but that isn't even the drum machine. I think that's a kit. So, I'm just playing with some different flavors this time, and so yeah, I'm excited.
And no, this is really the last question I'll ask you. Long-term aspirations. You mentioned you don't really care if you're famous. You don't care about all that kind of stuff. But you did mention that it would be great to go on tour. I mean, what kind of are your long-term aspirations? How do you want to see your career go from here?
I mean, I think the easiest thing for me is to look at another artist and be like, yeah, if I could get to that level and like have homeostasis, that would be awesome. So for me, I think of like a Wise Blood, or I was gonna say Mitski, but she's like blown up these last few years. Like an Angel Olsen, a Sharon Van Etten, like those are artists that I really look up to, and I think that they're kind of at this perfect. Like, I don't know what Wise Blood is doing right now. Nobody does. She puts out an album that people listen to, and she can sell out in theater tour, which is great because theaters are amazing. Yeah. And she can go live her life, and then probably like this year or the top of next we'll get another album. And like, to me, that is the ideal, that is the goal. Like a cool like 1 million monthly listeners on Spotify would be great. Like, I really just want to live my life and share music with people, and I think just be part of the conversation of artists of today. I think that's cool.
I wonder if you could. I mean, your music seems very much made for television or movies in a way too, like for a mood, for a scene. And I know that Sharon Bennett has had stuff on different shows. I'm pretty sure she has. But it just takes a little bit for someone to blow up enough that the rest of their catalog becomes known and people get a real interest in them. And I could see that really happening with you.
Thank you. Let's manifest it.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I really wish you luck. So we're going to leave off the podcast here with Low. And, the interesting thing to me about Low, one, it's, by far your most listened to song on the social media stuff, and a lot of comments about it, how much it moves people, which must be really satisfying to hear. I mean, whenever you read about it, it's like, oh my God, this song means so much to me. I have to see you play it live. But you had a long period between recording it or writing it, I think, at least, and releasing it. You had two, so you recorded it on these our vinyl sessions, I noticed, and then you had 2 more EPs come out, and then you've put it on the 3rd EP in that. So it had been around for a while. Why did it not make those other EPs?
So it was initially on one of those earlier EPs, and I signed to a small label, and they were like, hey, we want to release it. Take it off of your old project and package it up thing. And so, sure, I guess, sure. It wasn't really a creative decision, but it was just something that the people around me thought would be a good idea. So we did it.
Well, it was really interesting to me because it's blown up to be a pretty big song, and the fact that you didn't release it for those couple of albums, I was like, what was going on? Because it wasn't. Yeah. It's obviously not the same, but it's not so radically different that it was like you didn't completely rework the song and have it be completely different when it came back. I mean, it was obviously different because one was live, one was recorded. But yeah. Does it feel like that song is still relevant for you? Is it still very much like did it capture a version of you at a time that's changed, or is it still very much kind of relevant to you today?
It's not relevant. Like I don't feel all of those things in my current self, but I feel her, I really tapped into something that I had needed to express from. What's funny is I wrote that song after my son was born, about my first real relationship. So this is years after. Yeah. And I think that space gave me objectivity and clarity that I didn't have in this situation. It just felt really good to document and catalog in song. Because, I think it's cool to have these conversations and hear your perspective, because I get to also take a step back and I can see my own trajectory in songs too. And that is cool. It's really cool. So
I bet it is. Yeah. Victoria, thank you so much for talking with me today. I've taken up so much of your time, and I really appreciate you taking a little time out of your day to speak with me.
I appreciate you. This has been great.
You showed up at my door, restlessly in search of something I can offer. You pled for something more, and I'm too scared to tell you what I want. 'Cause when you come around, I go way far down. I sink ever deeper now. Yes, I go low. Something in the way that I loved you in my day, and I'm too ashamed to say that now I just don't. And I don't wanna die alone.
And that was Victoria Bigelow, honest, vulnerable, and deeply grounded in her art. Her music doesn't just tell a story, it feels like one. It's lived in, it's layered, and it's unafraid to sit with the hard stuff. Whether she's singing about motherhood, trauma, or the complicated ways that we grow into ourselves, Victoria has a rare gift for capturing what so many of us struggle to say. If her songs resonated with you, I encourage you to dig deeper into her catalog. You'll find that each track, whether it's fully produced or just a voice memo with a guitar, holds something essential, something very human. And Victoria just released a new single on June 6th. It's called Scraps. And June 6th was also her birthday, so go wish her a happy belated birthday and let her know what you thought of her song. Thanks for listening to The Underknown. If you enjoyed this conversation, please share it with a friend, leave a review, and help us bring more attention to the artists doing the work. Thanks for listening.
And I'm too ashamed to say that now I just don't. And I don't wanna die alone. I go low. Something in the way that I loved you in my day, and I'm too ashamed to say that now I just don't. But I don't wanna die alone.